you for the invitation. And I am very excited that I'm putting stuff out there, that there's content that I'm a part of creating, whether it's someone interviewing me for their podcast, or many times I'm interviewing other people. And what really touched me about your reaching out is that you were moved by it. You were not only moved by it personally, but you were moved by it to get involved.
Hmm.
So I'll talk a little bit about my background, but my approach in this, yes, we live in a toxic environment globally, really, and it's
Wow.
really bad in our country,
Mm.
the United States, that is, because this could end up anywhere. And that's for a host of reasons. Um, so I started out, I, I, I I was in the music industry for a long time, and that's
Hmm.
coming up for me now because I just saw that what's her name? The rapper, very popular rapper girl. She just did a deal with Popeyes.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Stallion, Meg
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Stallion. And I just saw another situation. Uh LL Cool J and his wife, they just did a deal with I can't remember the company, but it's another deal that I would
Was
go,
it KFC?
no, I don't think it was KFC. I just read it. It's in the new Essence
Mm.
that came through. I'll look it up, but they just did a deal. And
Hmm.
I remember when Snoop and Master P, they were on a and I've interviewed Master P. I've interviewed everybody. I was from 1993, excuse me, 1994 to 2003. I worked for Billboard magazine. So I've interviewed a lot of people. Plus I did a gospel uh music documentary called Higher Ground, Voices
Okay.
of Contemporary Gospel Music. Apparently, it still comes on
Hmm.
BET, the
Mm.
TV version of it. So I interviewed Donnie McClurkin, Mary, uh, uh, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, the Clark sisters, all of the people. I've interviewed a lot of people. And
Wow.
so, I'm thinking about it because there are a lot of people come out of nowhere now, and you can become an influencer. Obviously, I'm a little influencer at this point. There are people like the Food Babe, who I had the honor of interviewing recently, who have it's like I think she has like 1.2 million people, and her influence has grown since she started doing her deal in 2008. And so as I've interviewed people for a summit I have coming up in fall, um, people got upset about something. I mean, that's pretty much where activism and advocacy comes from. And so just doubling back, because I have a tendency to, to be all over the place, so I can close up what I was talking about with the celebrities. So I was saying that they were doing a deal with the company. It was Pfizer.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Because the wife is a cancer survivor, and I understand that. And so they're, bringing cancer awareness up, early detection, and all of that with Pfizer. So, Master P and Snoop, they were super excited to bring their, chips and cheese doodles and stuff to
Oh
market.
no.
I don't think the venture did so well. I saw it in the bodegas around here. I'm based in New York City in Harlem, and
Wow.
I saw their product and it came and went. But someone asked Master P during I think it was a Black Enterprise show that they have online, like, hey, what about doing some, healthy stuff? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're just getting into the distribution network now. We'll get around to that. So on the flip side, you have Kevin Hart, who started a vegan restaurant or two. Unfortunately, I believe the one in Los Angeles closed down, but at least he's making an effort towards something different. You have Will Smith's son, who just started a vegan, like a vegan truck just to feed the homeless.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and what I commend him, he's not going to feed people what he doesn't eat. You
Right.
know, for whatever reasons, he's a vegan, he got some of the best food. And that's what he was given to the people who were in need. So I became a fitness trainer first and
Who licensed you,
20
may I ask?
the institute, excuse me, IPFA.
Would
Uh,
you suggest them for others?
well, it's according, I have a very close relationship with Jim Bell. I chose that particular company, keep saying the institute because I have a wellness coaching degree, excuse me, certification from the Institute of Wellness Education. Uh, but this is the International Fitness Professionals Association. That's what IFPA stands for, and it's truly international. At the time that I became certified, I was based in Tampa, Florida, and my mentor, Stephanie Perome, who I worked with at the National Academy of Songwriters, and she taught me how to produce conferences, in fact.
Wow.
And when I was talking to her, listen, I'm transitioning one more time. I'm thinking about, I want to do something that's close to my heart and blah, blah, blah. And she said, so why don't you become a fitness trainer? Because she knew I had been involved, a fitness enthusiast for many years. And so I said, that's a good idea. And she recommended ACE because I believe that's where she had gotten her certification through.
Did you say ACE?
And I don't want to guess what the acronym is, but they're pretty popular.
Oh, yeah, they're famous.
Yeah.
If you said
The-
ACE, ACE.
yes.
Yep. Hmm.
And so the other one that's very popular is NASM,
Yes.
NASM. So I wanted to do a class in person, and Jim Bell's organization is based in Tampa. So that is the reason I chose it. And I'm glad I did because I got to know him and his family. It's a family run business. And
Mhm.
recently he lost his wife, in fact, and he said something to me that blew my mind. He says, she had said this to him, and he says, Athena said that you were our most loyal
Wow.
loyal client because I stuck with them. Because if you've been certified, every time you get to recertify, you get another, you do something else, sports nutrition,
Yes.
anatomy of blah blah blah. And then when you stop, you lose all of the
You
credentials
lose
for
it all.
that. So it's
I-
easy to stick with the same company. Uh, Plus I'm a creature of habit. So I might do another certification in the near future. I don't see any pressing reason to. I do train two clients, a lawyer and her husband. I used to train them at Blink Fitness here in Harlem. And when I stopped training them, they pretty much didn't do anything. And about a year ago, I said, can you come to the house to train us? And I got excited about it because I miss, training people. And so I said, sure, and so I train them a couple of times a week. And I've been doing that with them for years. So I need to be certified so that I can have the proper insurance. I'm a real
Ah.
trainer. Uh,
Mm.
so anyway, so that's where it started for me. But just to fast forward, I was invited into a like a what do you call it? A test group is what it's called for a new product. It was a a new project that included a workout and it included gut health directions. It was
Wow.
all for the 4-week gut protocol, 28 days. And so people do know there are companies that test their products and they test their programs. So I was part of the test group. And so one of the other participants, and I did well in that, and it's a great program. So one of the participants asked about, yeah, how can we find out more about gut health? This is about 3 years ago. And so Autumn Calabrese, who's a co-creator of the 4-week gut protocol, directed us to a podcast that she had done with she called him Dr. B, Dr. B, the gut.
Yeah, through you. I mean, I looked them up because I listened to you. Yeah.
Well, she's the first person to mention him. So I looked him up, just like, I went to listen to her podcast. And, I started to, I was fascinated. What fascinated me about gut health is that I had been in partnership with the CDC and New York State Medicaid to present the National Diabetes Prevention Program. Right. And we got caught up in COVID. I had an online version of it, so I was able to take the people who had come to my church, Ephesus SDA Church in New York, where we were doing this 1 year program, and switched them online. So when the shutdowns happened here in New York City, we were able to complete the programs. So I had been involved in some of this before, but one thing I loved about gut health, and I went on to get Fiber Fueled, his book, which literally changed the trajectory of my life on many levels, but it made me an activist, and we'll get to that. So if you get your gut health right, you get your immune system right, period.
Trying my best.
Yeah, it covers everything,
Mm,
good gut. So health starts in the gut. They've been
absolutely.
saying that for a long time, and it's true, right? And it's very, we as a society, we don't eat a lot of fiber.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking, Metamucil or anything like that, but
No, the
actually
real thing.
eating plants and vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
fruits that deliver fiber to our bodies. And that's what feeds the good gut bugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the other stuff that we love to eat that's been designed to hijack our taste buds,
Absolutely.
they feed the bad gut bugs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And it's so easy just to not buy anything in a package. Just do all your shopping in the produce section.
Easier said than done, because I'll tell you something that I've discovered from my own personal standpoint. This stuff hasn't been easy for me. When I look back and I was eating healthy, and I really found out I was a weight manipulator. Once I
Mm,
started to examine and understand what being healthy is about, it's not just what you eat, it's movement, right? It's making sure you have enough water.
mm-hmm.
Leave an acronym with your people. New Start, NEWSTART. Now, how do you get a new start if you're trying to make changes in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start with nutrition. And most people will say that is trainers will tell you. People come to you, they want to, do a transformation. Most of it's weight loss, but there are some people who don't need to lose weight. But even if they're trying to build muscle or prepare for, one of these shows, right? Competitions, food. What you eat is what is 80%. Some people say 80, 90. It is super important to your health. And we're just, we don't have the training to know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's a huge part of it. You can exercise all day long, but if you don't change your
About the
eating,
food.
and unfortunately, a lot of times we change and we get these wonderful transformations, and we're showing ourselves on Facebook, and friends are asking us what we did. And then we start going back.
Yeah.
We start going back to what we were doing that got us in the in the bad situation in the
Mm-hmm.
first place, right?
Right.
We get lax. And I can tell you, nutrition is important. We're going to get back to nutrition because I've landed on, food justice activism. I didn't know what was going on in our food supply until I read Dr. Will Boltzewitz's book, Fiber Fueled. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a gastroenterologist who, like everybody else, he was doing what he was taught in medical school. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
working,
Not much about nutrition. Mm-hmm.
right? And it wasn't working. What he was doing was not working. And he was proactive. You have Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung, FUNG, the diabetes code, the cancer code, um, what is it? Obesity code. He again was trained a certain way, and his clients were coming to him going, well, you said losing weight would help my type 2 diabetes, but you're giving me a drug that is making me gain weight.
Mm.
And he could not give a good answer to those clients who, you
Mm.
know, said something's not right with this picture.
Mm.
So he has established a protocol. Please look him up. He
I
does
will.
intermittent fasting and all of that. And keto's part of his equation, but he's helped thousands of people, shake type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is a different ball game. Type 2 is lifestyle oriented, and he's helped people uh, reverse type 2
Mhm.
diabetes
Mhm.
and lose weight and all of that. So anyways, so new start, exercise is the E, right? We have to move. Our ancestors moved, they were hunters and gatherers, and they hunted little stuff. They weren't, eating elephants, okay?
Mm-mm.
But anyways, so exercise, and we're sitting too much. Sitting is new smoking. If you're
Absolutely.
sitting,
Yeah, that's the new smoking.
you've got to make a point of getting up every half hour, 15 minutes, walk around, get some air, do something. I know it might be difficult because we like to focus and we stay locked, you know, and I do it because I'm working on a project and I get locked. And then I
Mhm.
get up and I'm like, right?
But how good is the air? I mean, I go to the track every day and I look at the cars passing by and I'm like, is this really good for me?
Well, in terms of air, some of the most polluted air is in our homes.
And that's true.
And one of the things that we have to do, and since we're on this subject, we can talk about it, is let air in, ventilate, open your windows. A lot of people don't open their windows, and you need to get some of the air out. So how does our air become so polluted inside of our homes, right?
Yeah.
Chemicals,
Yeah.
right? We have everything. I mean, if you, another name is another person who I interview for my upcoming summit, Darren, Darin,
Hmm.
Darin, Olien. Darren Olean's written a book called Fatal Conveniences. Everything
Mm.
that's, convenient for us often comes with a side effect that
Hmm.
people don't talk about, right?
Hmm.
These, right?
Ooh.
Wireless, these are wireless headsets,
Uh,
right?
I
Uh,
said yesterday I need to stop using them. I use them while I exercise.
And it's a hard thing. I dug up some old ones that I had, then they got jacked up and I went and bought wired headsets. I can still walk around. When it comes to running, it's going to be a different ball game, but uh this Mac I'm on,
Mm.
the modem that's in the living room, all of this stuff, the phone I
Yeah.
have right here. So, and that's not all. I'm wearing a polyester type shirt.
Mm.
Back in the day, people wore cotton.
Yes.
If you want cotton today, which is a wonderful thing, it's real. It's organic. You got to get organic cotton because of the way things are being grown and general and GMOs and all of that. But people wore wool, right? And so now with industry, we have a lot of fabrics that are man-made. And we love it because a baby's bib, you know,
Mm-hmm.
grandparents used to have to wash them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, baby drops something on it, it goes the same Teflon or whatever that
Mm.
you don't have to iron as much. People
Wow.
used to know how to iron and people iron. Now you throw something in the dryer and it comes out and it's not
Oh
wrinkled.
God, I just did that.
Huh?
I
And so
just,
there's a chemical in that makes that happen.
wow.
Formaldehyde, all kind of chemicals are in these fabrics. They're in the carpet. They're in the uh, furniture, right?
Mm.
You may remember a few years, maybe a couple. It's been a while now, but houses had formaldehyde in them. The pieces were brought in from China, and people were getting sick
Mm.
from the pieces that were brought in to build houses, and wasn't a good thing. And then you have mold, which unfortunately I've become acquainted with in the worst way.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
There's mold that will kill you and debilitate and all of that. I'm in a Facebook group for mold support,
Mm-hmm.
toxic mold support, because not all mold is toxic. Uh,
Mm.
and there are now about, I believe it's 71,000 people in this group, and that's just one of the groups. So
Wow.
as climate change gets worse, uh, mold is becoming more prevalent.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you live in a place like Florida, it's already prevalent. People know. I think 78 is a high number of places in Florida have mold. And
Mm.
people don't know. You don't just paint over mold. You haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm. You
And
can't even use bleach on mold. That doesn't do anything.
I'm glad you know that.
Yeah.
The management people send maintenance men up here who tell me to use bleach. And I said, no, bud. And they came up and they scraped and they painted over, spray painted over. And that's not
Mm.
proper remediation. And mold, there are people who have dementia and
Mm.
actually have mold sickness, right?
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God.
There are people who are dying from heart attacks. There are people who have asthma. I had my asthma revisit me when I was living in Tampa. And
Mm.
it turns out, really, I now know that I actually was being exposed to mold. And what nearly killed me on October 7, 2011, was not an asthma attack. It was an anaphylactic response to the mold in the apartment where I was living. Shortly after that, I moved to Las Vegas, and all of a sudden, I was good,
Oh,
you know.
wow.
So, and now I moved back to New York where, we have leaks in the walls and stuff like that. It's not properly, the water damage is not properly handled. If you have
Mm.
water damage, do something within 48 hours or mold starts to grow, period.
Oh
And
my
if you're in a
God.
place where it's chronic, you can believe that there's mold behind the wall,
Mm.
wherever. And some molds, again, are making whole families sick, giving
Mm.
people eczema. That's how it manifested here where I am today in New York. Eczema. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a chemical from me getting my hair colored. And then I'm going to the dermatologist. I'm getting these oils and all of this. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what is this? I start seeing this stuff on my neck. And then it's underneath my armpits and
Oh,
it's underneath
wow.
my breast and halfway up my stomach. I'm like, what's going
Oh,
on?
wow.
In my groin, there is no worse place to have a rash, I can tell you that.
Really?
And I'm talking hell. I would not wish it on, I remember
Mm-hmm.
kids who had psoriasis and eczema as young people. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of that stuff is coming from mold and people don't realize
Mm.
it. Yeah. Louis
Wow.
Gossett Jr. died. And so this is not an economic, it's not only in the hood, right? He had a
Everywhere.
mansion uh, on Malibu Beach and it had mold. Didn't know it because mold could be growing, flourishing in the back of a wall or something, and you don't know it if you don't know what to look for. And his death many years later was still attributed to the lung damage done by the mold, an infestation in his house in Malibu.
So how did you get rid of the mold on your body?
I don't think I'm fully rid of it. I
Wow.
know it's it's first of all, it takes a while. I am doing some charcoal, activated charcoal, and a couple other things. But getting mold, first of all, you got to confirm that it's even in your system. It's not mold that's in your system. What happens is it's something called mycotoxins, and
Mm.
mycotoxins can come from other places. Remember when I said the bad gut bugs in your system, they
Yeah.
usually manifest as mycotoxins in the gut.
Mm.
So it's mycotoxins, and so it's chemicals that will and can end up in your brain, and it
Wow.
manifests itself as dementia, right? So
Whoa.
one of the first things you are told to do, and I have a doctor, it took me a while. The group, in fact, helped me find this doctor affiliated with Mount Sinai Hospital because most doctors haven't a clue about it. They will
Hmm.
treat the symptom like they do too often with most things, and most is
Right.
no different. They'll say, well,
Hmm.
we can help you with the eczema, but that's not going to help me if I'm sitting in an apartment that's moldy,
It's
right?
still coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to get out of here. I mean, that's
Mhm.
ultimately what you have to do. How easy is that? But
Not easy in New York, I'm sure.
not easy in New York, but also there are people who own homes and the things that they go through. One of the reasons I'm not rushing out of here, is because sometimes you can run into a worse situation,
Mm.
right? And I'm reading these horrific stories, some of them, about people who did, they had the places fully inspected and blah, blah, blah. One woman, her husband brought in his laptop and that set off the whole deal.
No
People are leaving
kidding.
everything behind. I mean, it's insidious.
Wow.
Insidious. And in this building, I could say, hey, can I move to another apartment? But my mom has lived here for 50 years. And in this particular apartment, she's lived here since 2007. I've been back here for 13 years, and they've come in because of a water leak about 5 separate times. And what they
Mm.
do is they come in, I don't know where the leak starts. It could be 5 stories up. This is a 35-story building.
Wow.
But what I can tell you, and this is going to tie into what I talk to people about. I talk to people, I want to educate people. I want to
Hmm.
empower them because a lot of what we are facing feels overwhelming. I just had someone from the UK. She's one of my guests. She deals with healthy homes out there. And she feels overwhelmed today because they're talking about blocking the sun in the UK. you know, uh,
Oh my
Yeah, and
goodness.
when you
God,
hear
how
that,
can you
the
do that?
sun is what gives life, and we have man finding ways to try to block the sun. What could go wrong?
Everything.
Major. What could possibly go wrong,
Man.
right? So she was overwhelmed today. She's like, I just cannot believe this. So to try to help people not feel overwhelmed with all the information we give, because we have to give some solutions. And one of the solutions, in my humble opinion, is get off the sidelines. Yes, it's great for you to take the tips to ventilate your house, maybe buy underwear that's 95% organic cotton because you can't get 100%. Change the household products you're using to more natural products.
Mhm.
You can stop where you're hearing it's natural. Black women are being just sickened with not only the chemicals, but now the added hair, right? So the
Mhm.
synthetic hair has a lot of chemicals in it, right? This is
Yes.
close to your scalp, right? I used to wear
Mhm.
braids back in the day. This is all my own nappy hair.
Wow, I wanted to know
Uh,
that.
yes, it is.
Wow,
Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you. So now, and then we have the spiritual aspect of the human hair, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because people are, these people are going into, um, I don't even know, I don't know if it's Hinduism or whatever, but they're going into these places and they're cutting their hair. These are rituals and you don't
Yeah,
know
they're being
what
told that they're,
spirit is
yeah,
attached to this hair that we spend all this money for, right? But that's going to be a hard one for us because we have been indoctrinated to believe that what grows out of our scalp naturally is not good hair.
and it's so sad. Oh my God.
It's very sad. Now, I have to say, with this new generation, particularly in New York, because different regions have different things going on, these kids are wearing their hair nappy, and
Good.
it's wonderful,
Good.
right? They're wearing their hair in its natural state. We just been bamboozled on a lot of levels, and we
Absolutely.
perpetuate it. So a lot of times
Mhm.
we keep talking about them, and then at a certain point we have to take responsibility. We got to take responsibility for our health, number one. We're um in every category for the most part, we're leading in every negative category of health.
Absolutely.
We're
It's
only
so true.
13% of the population and we're leading in all the negative
And all bad
health.
things. Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna find something to read to you because
Let me
it's
get my
blew my
juice.
mind. Um, Oh, wow. I'm looking for my translation. I did a, I actually transcribed this. I was so, um, oh, here it is. Great. So Dan Buettner is a co-founder of the Blue Zone project. Started out
Okay.
as a project between him and National Geographic magazine, and they
Mm.
had discovered that there were some people in the city in Japan that were living to 100, a lot of them living to 100, but not, decrepit or frail. They were active and in good shape, and their minds were sharp. So
Mm-hmm.
they looked at this and they, of course, wanted to know, well, what are they doing, right? So they decided to go around the world and see if there are other groups like this. And they discovered, in Greece was one of the places, Greece, Japan, um, Costa Rica, that's one I always forget. And there's only one group in the United States, the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California. We tend to have vegan diets.
Mm-hmm.
The social aspect and the spiritual aspect and moving, right? Having the 7 laws of health, 8 laws of health,
Yes.
and all of that. So Dan Buettner recently, a couple of years ago, he was a guest for Bolshewitz's
Mm-hmm.
summit, and
Mm-hmm.
I attended the summit, and he said something that made me cry, right? Because I just finished saying we're now leading in most negative categories of health. Black
Mm-hmm.
people, right? Hispanics, Indians, right? These same groups of people, and this is a quote, according to the CDC, about 750,000 Americans will die this year, that was 3 years ago, eating the standard American diet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is mostly the processed food, the meat, the cheese, the eggs, the sugar. But you go back 100 years ago and you look at the way, and he says to Bolsowitz, not farmers in the Midwest, yours and my great grandparents, but you look at the diets of African Americans, Asian Americans, Latin Americans, and Native Americans, and they were eating a blue zone diet, which is to say mostly whole food
Mm-hmm.
based greens, grains, nuts, tubers, and beans. And they were brilliant. And he says, and how do I know this? I went into the archives of New York University and found the very first food surveys. Now he says they were done by the precursor. So this is before the USDA. They actually went and lived with these four ethnicities, the families. They lived with them for about 2 weeks and observed what they ate, right? They
Mm-hmm.
were eating a very low, basically no processed food, very little meat. And the National Geographic photographer and I, this is during the pandemic, he was going around doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, it's the lost American diet of longevity. And if we
Yep.
could somehow bring that diet back, we could probably wipe out 75% of chronic disease. Now, isn't it ironic that the people who are suffering the most from chronic illnesses at one point were eating in such a way that this man would go around and find these historic chefs of these ethnicities to put together a book, a recipe book for longevity? Do you see the
Mm-hmm.
irony of that?
Mm-hmm.
Where did we go wrong? We came north.
Yeah, we came north because we did grow our own foods, and then we came north, and then it doesn't, it's crazy. I don't know how they stopped. I don't remember, but how did we stop? How did we let them talk us into stop growing our own food and we can go in the store and buy it instead? I mean, that was crazy.
Convenience.
Oh,
And then, more women working,
oh
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember TV dinners, Swanson TV dinners. They weren't the best, but they promoted that,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a lot of different factors, but industrialization and things changing and women working.
Mm.
So my grandmother was in the kitchen the whole time. When I went down south, she was making everything from scratch. We would go into the garden and pick green beans and we would shuck them. And, there were trees with plums on them. And
Yeah.
she made biscuits and hot cakes from
Mm.
scratch, right? There was no Bisquick or any of that. And
And people weren't getting fat off that stuff either.
no, because what is making us fat? So I'm going to get back to Bolshewitz's book where he talked about the fact, and this
Hmm.
was a footnote. I mean, this was a couple of pages. The only reason this gastroenterologist mentioned this is because these additives are negatively impacting the gut. They're causing problems with the intestinal lining and all that. And these emulsifiers, which makes things thicker, these are titanium dioxide, which is not a good
Mm.
thing at all. It's in a lot of the food. It makes the white look really white. A lot of this is
Mm.
illusion. That's the thing
Mm.
that really brought the spiritual aspect of this for
Yes.
me. Um, because a lot of what they do, these additives are not just for, salt was to help preserve, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
A long time additive. There are certain additives that have been around and they serve a person for preservation. Not a lot of them do that. They are messing with our brains,
Oh,
you know. They are getting a response from us from our five senses, right? Uh, Even the way a can opens, that's a trigger.
wow. Oh my
Oh,
God.
no, they don't have bakers on their staff. They have food scientists
Scientists. Hmm.
and chemists, right? So
Yeah.
we have 10,000 plus food additives in the American
Mm.
food supply. And I'm sure it's more than that. 99% of them, according to Bolsowitz, have no studies.
Right.
Then he goes on to say, and I ended up studying about the generally recognized as safe. This is a provision that allow pretty much the food companies to determine what's safe to put in our food supply.
Hmm.
Because oddly enough, of any agency that should be funded properly, should be FDA and all of the agencies that take care of our health, but they're not. They're not funded. And in fact, some of the food companies are bringing money to the table, which is giving them even more influence.
Yep.
But we have all of these foods and now, ultra processed foods, which have now, and I'll give you the numbers, go all the way from 60% to 100%. So 60% of the daily caloric intake of the average American is ultra processed foods. Now, when you start talking Black people, or let's start talking young people. Young people could be 70%, right? We're at 80%. 80% of our daily caloric intake. And you know about the McDonald's figures. So you figure if we're 40% of the US sales of McDonald's, that's just one fast food restaurant. We haven't gotten to Popeyes, Burger King, Wendy's, Hardee's, anything else, right?
Yeah.
So, and then a doctor, when I was interviewing Dr. Sunil Dand, and he said 100%. I said, where are people's diets 100% ultra processed foods? He says in rural areas of Mississippi. So people are not cooking. They're stopping by Burger King. They're stopping by fast food places, taking the kids in. I see people at the deli, getting the kids or the bodega in New York.
Yes.
Then they're eating crap in school because the companies buy their way into the lunchrooms.
Uh-huh.
Mayor Eric Adams was making changes along those lines here. He
Oh,
does not
yes, I
get.
had a book.
Oh, good.
Uh-huh. I
Oh,
love
that's
them.
fabulous.
Hmm.
And I'm going to highlight him in my summit because there's a lot of emphasis on a lot of other stuff, but this man has not only changed New York, but through his relationship with other mayors, like 1,300 mayors get together every year, he was able to help them do the same programs in these other
Oh,
cities.
I didn't
Because,
know that. That's
yeah,
great.
I'll send you
That's
the article
good.
on that as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people making a lot of changes. I can, the 10,000 foot, that just got under my skin, Ginger. It just got under my
Yeah,
skin.
that's terrible.
I'm thinking, I mean, I'm like, I felt betrayed by our country.
Yes.
Portrayed by our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do you let this happen in America? I mean, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this. And because of all of the problems, the endocrine disruptions, we have fertility issues worldwide. We're on the verge of
Mm.
this extinction
Do
because
you
of the
think they could be
chemicals.
doing this on purpose to thin the population out?
That's some of it, but I think man is just so greedy. You see how
Right.
people are trying to find their way to the moon and they're trying to explore Mars because you know, the accumulation of wealth. This is when I really come to understand that for the love of money is the root of all evil.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it very clearly in the food industry where they've forgotten we are human beings.
They don't care.
They don't even see us as human beings. Anytime you're just trying to get people to eat more of your stuff, even if it's killing them, right?
They don't care.
That is frightening. Now, people care in other countries.
Oh yeah.
As I'm listening, and that's one of the things that have gotten the moms very up in arms. They're, mothers are having a hard time feeding their kids healthy foods. You got GMO, you got glyphosate, and even the good foods. you know and people keep telling you, well, there's no proof of this. They get really into the legal maneuvers in this country. And I notice even with Donald Trump doing negotiations right now, and he's like, yeah, um, we don't have the best regulations here, and they want other countries to bring their standards down. Deregulation is not the best thing. Deregulations, no, companies, the owners and the managers of this building are not going to come in here and do anything about mold because legally they don't have to. If
Mm-mm.
they if they can't see the mold, when the inspectors came in here, you have to be able to see the mold. It has to be on a certain surface, type of surface, right? And it has to be a certain amount. Now, there's mold killing people that they never see, but these are the criteria that some charlatan helped get into a law from
Wow.
2018, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just again to say this is how people with money, they have lobbyists, and they are always doing things that uh, will lessen what they have to do. And most people are not, most companies are not going to volunteer to spend money that they don't have to for
Oh
alcohol,
no.
period.
Looks better in their pockets.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
now he wants other companies. And I'll give you an example. I read about this about a year or so ago. Mexico didn't want to accept our GMO corn. They didn't want to buy. They said, no, we're not doing GMO because corn is like the bottom line for them. Corn is very important to them. And they have native crops and native corn and all of this, and they don't want GMO coming in and spoiling that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the United States is forcing them to buy all of this corn, and they don't, they said, we'll buy some and we'll feed that to the livestock, but we're not feeding that corn to our people. So they've been in an international court, and we're talking about sovereignty of nations with this stuff. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I can read because of where I am with all of this is United States, like they said, yeah, we're bringing beef into the UK now. They just did a deal with the UK, and I'm just listening, I'm cringing. I know at one point the UK couldn't send stuff out because they had mad cow disease and while I was living there.
Mm.
Um, and so, we're trying to get people to deregulate,
Tuh.
to bring down their standards.
Kill us
We
all.
can go into their
Not just us
market with
Americans.
our garbage.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And that's something they weren't accepting it at first. I don't know why they're doing it now.
So, anyways, this is a huge deal, but I want to give something concrete. We talked about nutrition, eating is much plant-based whole foods as you can. That's a good thing. Finding organic and buying it when you can. Buying locally when you can, close to home. Uh, Foods literally lose nutrition as they come a distance, traveling
Mm-hmm.
1,400 miles or whatever. So those are some. Cook when you can, cook your own food, what's in it. When you cook your own meals, meal prep, meal plan, teach the kids about food, have them come in and help you. their taste buds are being hijacked, and it's very hard to
Absolutely.
reverse, though it can be reversed. You just start feeding them something else and saying, if you ain't gonna eat it, you ain't eating tonight.
Yeah,
So on the exercise, walk. Walking is still one of the best exercises. Most people can do it. Find a safe place in your neighborhood. Spend $20 a month at a gym so you can go walk on the
absolute.
treadmill, use the elliptical machine, use the rowing machine. Get moving. Park away from the where you can walk a distance, walk up the stairs where it's safe again. Find ways to um
There
move.
you go. I see
Put
you.
on some old grooves and dance. I used to love to do
Yes.
in your house. So we have nutrition, exercise, water. Water, half the ounces of your weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds,
I
you
wish.
should be drinking 70. Yeah, that's my goal too, a ginger.
Mm,
Uh 75 ounces of water would be what your body needs, right?
okay.
So half your weight in ounces is what should be your daily intake of water. You can drink water with some lime and lemon. Those have other properties that are cleansing that can help out. Any way you need to enhance the water. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have sunshine. Don't block
Mm-hmm.
out the sun for us, please.
Mm,
Uh, for some of us, that means D3, vitamin D3. Okay. And hopefully a vegan version, because when they have the gel around it, that's pork for those who are trying to avoid
absolutely.
pork, right?
Mm-hmm.
So get some sunshine, walking out in the sun. People, there's really a lot of misconceptions about the sun and all of that, and people actually using products that are actually that are not helping them when it comes back, it's
Mm,
harming them. So please research these sun blockers before you put them on you.
mm-hmm.
So then we have the sun, and then we have temperance. This is a hard one because there are people who are paid to addict you. There are people who
Yes,
are paid
yes,
to put
yes.
chemical concoctions together that makes their products irresistible, that even if the doctor says, Miss George, if you keep eating what you're eating, we may have to amputate your foot. And she can't stop.
Can't stop.
Okay.
And it's not only food scientists, it's also the psychologists that are getting them. They do the commercials and they're socially engineering everybody. It's terrible. It's like this is hell.
Let me tell you something. We like to freestyle when it comes to our health and what we eat and all of that. They're very intentional. And if you don't do
Very.
one word that I say here, and it might not be easy, but try to be intentional in every area of your life. Don't wing it.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
We're intentional at work because we have to be. Some people are.
Mm-hmm.
Be intentional about what you eat. This is the temple of the Holy Spirit. This is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And many times we treat it like a garbage can because we don't understand that somebody said that these substances are food, but by definition, food should give you nutrients. It should provide your body with the nutrients that it needs daily. If
Mm-hmm.
you are filling up on chips, which I have done in my life,
I've done it all too.
so, now you still need the nutrients. You can still be hungry. A lot of times our bodies will crave certain things because it's craving the nutrient that's in it that the body needs. Our
Mm.
bodies are magnificently made,
Yes, they are.
right? But we're not
Yes,
giving it the fuel that it
it
needs,
needs.
right? And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come, I promise you, it does not come in any of these ultra processed
Huh.
products. And I'll also talk about, you see some people and you say, well, she's a vegetarian, she's a vegan. How could she be fat? There's a whole bunch of products out there that are vegan and they're no better. They're no better. They're just as processed as uh, meat or dairy products.
Worse. Some is
And
worse. Yep.
yeah, so please, if you're going to be plant-based, and I like to use that, plants. And even if you ate a little piece of meat, that's your choice. But if you're eating meat, please source your meat. One of my mentors, they have a half cow sent to their house, cut up. They know where it came from, what it was eating, and all of that from like a small family farm. A lot of these animal farm places are horrific,
Oh
and
God, they are.
the things they're doing to meat to give the appearance. Everybody's giving the appearance of
Mm-hmm.
freshness when they're old, near
Mm-mm.
decay.
Yeah,
Watch some of these YouTube videos.
I do.
So
I do
you're
think
right.
that's for
So
everybody.
you wanna, I am not eating flesh
No,
because,
period.
it's just too hard. But try your best if you are still hooked on that. You don't need flesh, and that's another thing that people try to convince people. There are people being paid by these industries to tell you you need milk. Milk is actually doing the opposite of what we've been told it does, and if you think about it, milk is for a calf that's going to be what, 1,000 pounds or something like that.
Ooh,
That's the
yeah,
last thing we should be eating,
absolutely.
right? And then for some of us, we have our enzymes, or something's different about people of color, where we can digest milk up to a certain point, like two or something like that, but we're not meant to have milk as adults. Now, I'm
Yeah,
just learning this stuff as well. So be intentional about what you
very
eat,
much so.
what you wear, right? What you
Mm-hmm.
put on your skin. A good rule of thumb for that is, if you can't put it in your mouth, don't put it on your skin.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard it only takes a few minutes for the lipstick and the lip gloss or whatever we're putting on our lips to actually end up in our brains. I'm like, what?
Mm,
Right? Do you
I
even
didn't know
know
that.
what's in the lipstick? Right? So
Not at all.
that's so temperance to me is a joke. That's self-control. You cannot do ultra processed foods and practice self-control, because you're eating stuff that's designed to make you overeat and to make you, sick. So then we have air, fresh air. Ginger mentioned it. Ventilate your house. You can get air purifiers, clean up the dust, look out for the mold. And if you have mold, make sure it's properly remediated. A young lady had mold remediated in her house. They were doing random checks in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in. She said, "Well, I don't have any mold." They said, "Well, we want to check anyways." And they checked, and she had mold in her bathroom and mold in her kitchen.
Wow.
And guess what? They put her in a hotel for 3 weeks because they had to rip out that drywall, and they did a proper remediation
Mm.
in this public housing place, because I think they're finding a lot of asthma. The Bronx is the
Mm.
capital of asthma. And is it really
Oh,
just a car pollution? No, it's mold in those buildings.
wow.
So she told me this, and I'm like, so NYCHA's doing a better job than the private or company that owns this building. Okay. I'm glad for NYCHA on that note. That's New York City, I don't know, New York City Housing Authority. That's what it
Okay.
stands for. The projects, as they call it. But anyway, so fresh air, and you want to get out in fresh air as well. You want to go to a park, you want to sit in your backyard on your terrace, you want to get fresh air daily, right? Rest, 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 rest. The rappers brag about working 24/7, that will kill you. You need sleep. Michael Jackson had all that money, he couldn't sleep, and it killed him,
It's
right?
too bad.
And then finally, time with God, right? Mindfulness, they call it a lot of stuff, doing breath work, reading your Bible, saying a prayer, whatever it takes for you to be spiritually centered is another important thing. And get around people. We've gotten so used to this that we
Yeah.
don't do much that is in person, and want to
Mm.
get in the presence of people, go to restaurants with people, and interact in person. Yes. Learn
Yeah.
to do that, young people. So
Absolutely.
I think I've covered a lot. It may not have been what we planned. It could have been what we planned, but I think you got enough. And yes, we can come back down the road as well.
Oh, great. I would love to have you. Before we go, could you tell them the programs that you are representing or that you have founded?
Sure. So I have Closed Grass. That's GRAS, closed GARS. That stands for generally recognized as safe. That is the loophole that has led to this mess that we're in when it comes to our food supply. additives.com. You can go there and get involved. I have marcikenon.com. That's where you will find everything is housed there. MarciKenon.com. I have a masterclass that I do on LinkedIn primarily every 2 weeks, and you can sign up for that on this Marci Kenon site. That is Wednesdays typically, and I'm kind of going between 11 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time and 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then finally, September 8th through the 12th, I have a 5-day summit where I've interviewed some incredible people. And Ginger, I'll give her the flyer where she could put it up along with this. And
Mhm.
so I have everybody from the food babe to Darren Oline, Dr. Will Boltowitz, um, the food politics guru herself, Marion Nessel. She's legendary.
That sounds
Jen
interesting.
Honeycutt, who is the Moms Across America. They're doing incredible work. And she's one of the inner circle of the Make America Healthy Again. Please
Mm.
don't let the acronym scare you. We need to be a part of this movement because we are
Yes.
suffering more in this country than anybody else. Think what you want about Trump, but I can tell you that RFK Jr., no matter what you hear, he is earnest in what he's doing.
That's
He
what I
is
thought too.
earnest in what he's doing. They're getting to the root of the problem, which our system has not been doing. It's been actually treating symptoms, and all of us have been getting worse, and we're dying sick and suffering and dying prematurely in our
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods. We're losing more limbs to type 2 diabetes and even car accidents, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So please get involved with something, start an organization. But we need people off the sidelines and criticizing and all of that. Get busy, do
Right.
something.
Yes.
Bolshevicks, everybody involved in these movements got pissed about something. They said, I have to do something. When I heard about grass, I said, no, we're closing grass. And that's happening. I thought it would take 15 years. It might still take a few more years, but it's on the desk in Washington.
Wow.
3 years.
Wow. So,
God is working it out, but we got to put the energy out, right?
mm-hmm.
So get busy. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
And come out. You can meet, you'll hear a lot. We're going to talk about mold. We're going to talk about toxicity, the 350,000 plus chemical and chemical compounds that are registered for use,
Mm.
production around the world. And 34%, we have no idea as to what they are going into our airs and our water. And
Oh, wow.
we don't even know
We've
what
got
they
to get
are.
involved. We've got
Right?
to.
We've got to get involved because
Wow.
the merchants of industry, they're not on our side.
Wow.
So
Well,
anyways,
thank you
thank you for
so
having
much,
me,
Marcy.
Ginger.
I really appreciate you coming and talking to us. And I'm going to use you in the group that I've started so they can hear what you have to say.
Amen.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
have a good day, Marcy, and thank you again.
You're very welcome, Ginger. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow.